in the commentary box, and we'll see you in about 80 seconds time for the build-up to the 20-lap British Grand Prix in MotoGP. We're set for a spectacular race day at Silverstone as you join us on a journey through MotoGP's rich history. Grand Prix racing celebrates its milestone 75th anniversary, and MotoGP stars of the present will mark the landmark occasion by racing at one of these season's most spectacular tracks in jaw-dropping celebration liveries, as it's time to race in retro MotoGP. So the MotoGP World Championship calendar's longest circuit brings us to the 5.9 kilometre, 3.666 miles Silverstone circuit. A thrilling TSO sprint yesterday won by Enea Bastianini. That followed hot on the heels of a red-hot all-time lap record set by Lace Espargaro in qualifying. The Aprilia star goes from pole position. 10 right, 8 left corners. As you mentioned, the longest track of the year, 47 years since the first British Grand Prix at Silverstone, the first on the mainland. Sector 2 includes the spectacular fifth gear sweep through Woodcote. And then the four sectors where the Aprilia and Lace Espargaro reign supreme so far this season. Most demanding braking points, turns 1, 6 and 15, but they do offer good overtaking opportunities as well. And Sector 3 is where the Michelin slick tyres get their biggest workout. Turn 3, 4, 6, 7, 15, 16, 17, there's an abundance of overtaking hotspots. This was Lace Espargaro into 3 and 4 last year when he fought his way through from 12th to the win. Coming up next then in MotoGP. Lace Espargaro looks for a belated birthday present on British soil as Aprilia chase more Silverstone glory from pole. On the day MotoGP celebrates its glorious history, Pecco Bagnaia will try for a personal milestone as a fifth straight win beckons from second. Enea Bastianini surged to a maiden success on Sprint Saturday, and the Italian is now eyeing a double for Ducati. And will it be Great Britain for Jorge Martin as the Spaniard aims to go one better than his sprint second? So rewind to Silverstone Super Saturday yesterday, and over 10 laps in the Tissot sprint. There was early drama right after lights out as Frankie Morbidelli slammed into the back of fellow Italian Marco Bezzecchi. Got even worse for another VR46 Academy star as Pecco Bagnaia crashed out of 4th place. Although this move though from his factory Ducati teammate Enea Bastianini ensures it's Bagnaia that going into this historic 20-lap British Grand Prix that still leads the World Championship. Marc Marquez was a late fall out of 2nd place, but it was beauty from the beast in Britain as Italian Enea Bastianini celebrated his first Tissot sprint success. 2nd place for Jorge Martin saw the Spaniard close within 1 point of series leader Pecco Bagnaia. Now 4 DNFs in the last 7 sprints for the reigning world champion as he looks to continue his golden run, his sensational burst of form. 4 successive victories for Bagnaia in Catalunya, Mugello, Assen and the Sachsenring. But the battle for supremacy in MotoGP in 2024 resumes after our 3-week summer break, and it resumes for a very special occasion. This weekend at the Monster Energy British Grand Prix at Silverstone, we celebrate our heritage, we celebrate our history, we honour the bikes and the riders who helped make this championship the greatest motorsport show on earth. 75-year anniversary celebration. And the big Premier Class race over 20 laps is coming your way in just over 40 minutes time. It should be a cracker, one you are not going to want to miss, because the action on the track, as always, should be spectacular. Just look at some of the illustrious names on the special banner above the podium here. The great and the good of Grand Prix motorcycle racing, including 15-time world champion Giacomo Agostini, 9 times world champion Valentino Rossi, Doohan, Rainey, Halewood, Duke, Surtees, Nieto, as you mentioned. Proper legends in the history of the MotoGP World Champion. A beautiful shot that was there. The AGS 500cc machine that carried Leslie Graham to our first Premier Class World title all the way back in 1949. What a journey, what an adventure it has been since the World Championship started in the late 1940s. And as we fast forward 7.5 decades to the modern day, we are looking for the current generational talents to put on some show here at Silverstone. Yesterday in the 10-lap Tissot sprint, as we mentioned, it was Bastianini that took the checkered flag first. Of course, we should remind you, one of the key features, one of the spectacular sights coming your way shortly, over 20 laps here at Silverstone, will be a battle in retro liveries. 11 teams, 22 riders will all race in special, unique, one-off liveries to honour our proud history. And trust us, as you're about to see on screens very shortly, there are some absolutely beautiful liveries that have graced our sport down the years. It's Matt Burt and Lewis Sutherby in the commentary box, as always, with Simon Crafar down in pit lane. If you're wondering why MotoGP is second on our schedule, of course, we're just accommodating European TV schedules. That's why at 1 p.m. local time here in the UK, 2 p.m. local time on the European mainland, it will be lights out for the MotoGP race. Don't worry, you Moto2 fans, you haven't missed anything. Your 17-lap battle will be coming up in just over a couple of hours' time. But now, though, we are focusing our full gaze on what we hope will be a brilliant Battle of Britain in MotoGP. 1 point splitting World Championship leader Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin, as we're going to get a glimpse inside the factory Ducati garage. They're celebrating livery. We're just going to get a replay first from yesterday. It was Jorge Martin leading early. Pecco Bagnaia 3 kilometres faster, he said, on the data showed, on a slightly tighter inside line going into turn 4 when he was in P4 from second on the grid. And unfortunately, Lewis, this was his 4th DNF in the last 7 sprints, his 5th of the season. So perhaps somewhat fortuitous that his teammate Enea Bastianini did him a big favour, that he still leads the World Championship today.
Yeah, he's made it too much of a habit really in 2024 so far as the reigning world champion, taking full responsibility for his error. And as you say, he's got his teammate Enea Bastianini to thank for keeping the World Championship lead. 1 point is Pecco Bagnaia's advantage into the 20-lap battle coming up this afternoon. And Enea Bastianini's win also saw him take third place in the World Championship after this crash from Marc Marquez with a couple of laps of the sprint remaining.
Yeah, down hard on the front brake, trail braking into turn 16. This is when Marquez was in a very lonely and secure fourth place. He wasn't going to have anything for the top three ahead of him. Look at that, that's the clear and obvious frustration and anger on the face of the number 93. He had his worst Friday of the season, he said, here in practice on the opening day of this British Grand Prix. Some turnaround, running in the top four, but he did pay some from that risky Michelin hard front tyre choice. We welcome fans, young and old, as always. Don't be shy. Yeah, give us a wave and a big smile. Thank you very much, that young lady there. Clear where her allegiance lies with the 93 on the mask.
Yeah, Marc Marquez hasn't had a good weekend, to put it mildly. Felt that he had next to no chance of a podium finish on Friday. He boosted his chances with qualifying on the third row, and he wasn't too far ahead of Chaos at the very first corner. You're watching the second of the Pramac Ducatis, Frankie Morbidelli, who comes from way back. No prayer of getting that Ducati stopped, and piled into the back of Marco Bezzecchi. Bezzecchi with some pain in his foot at the end of that, but fortunately nothing broken, and he is fit to take part in today's 20-lap British Grand Prix. Morbidelli too fit to start, but as you can see, he will serve a double long lap penalty when the race gets underway.
He pleaded not guilty, Your Honour, to the FI MotoGP stewards, saying that he was caught out by Maverick Vinales braking harder ahead of him. But when all said and done, no excuses. A double long lap penalty then coming the way for Frankie Morbidelli. Once I think the stewards realised that there was no mechanical issue that contributed to the mistake going into Abbey, it was rather inevitable, the outcome, that he was going to get sanctioned. So then here is Pecco Bagnaia in the special Ducati celebratory leathers. The Ducati Lenovo team here today at Silverstone, both Bagnaia and Bastianini, they will sport a rather familiar look for some of our early four-stroke era MotoGP fans here today. Their livery inspired by the very first ever Ducati Desmos Adichie. What we've now got the GP24 incumbent, well, their livery, a nod to the very first MotoGP contender, the GP3, raced all the way back in 2003 by Loris Capirossi and Troy Bayliss.
Marc Marquez wearing a Grassini set of leathers and about to board a Grassini Ducati, which looks rather familiar. We have seen this colour scheme before, but I don't think anyone's too disappointed to see it again, because it is a beautiful colour scheme. We've seen it at Misano in recent years. It's a nod, of course, to the founder of the Grassini team, the late Fausto Grassini, the Il Tricolore design, which Fausto Grassini made an iconic colour scheme as he took it to 125cc world titles in 1985 and 1987. Marc and Alex Marquez will sport his colours this afternoon.
Yeah, just an advanced public warning to all the fans tuning in at home, and I'm sure there are loads and loads of you. Of course, these special liveries look fantastic. We love them, but it is a slight change on what we're accustomed to seeing here in the commentary box. We've done our research, we've been glued to the screens, so we'll do our best, certainly in the first 2 or 3 laps, to try and make sure our identification is bang on the money. I tell you what, this is my personal favourite. A nod to the absolutely drop-dead gorgeous racy black livery of the older Aprilia RSV 250, which was raced when Max Biaggi was dominating 250s in the mid-90s. He won the title in 1994, 1995 and 1996. And that factory Aprilia livery, about to be raced by Aleix Espargaro and Maverick Vinales, is an absolute stunner. It's beautiful. Aleix Espargaro, well, he said yesterday he produced probably the lap of his life, certainly right up there with the very best, as he found that incredible all-time lap record to take pole position and finish third behind the beast and Jorge Martin in yesterday's 10-lap Tissot sprint, looking, of course, for back-to-back British Grand Prix wins here this afternoon. The factory Yamahas, have to say, look absolutely stunning as well. Right on cue, we can see the livery that Fabio Quartararo and Remy Gardner will be running here this weekend. One of the most iconic looks in the history of the sport. Yamaha's red and white, first made its debut back in 1964. Synonymous, of course, with Grand Prix idols and legends through the 70s like Jarno Saarinen and 15-time world champion Giacomo Agostini. It looks great. Let's hope it performs great as well in this British Grand Prix. I'm delighted to say joining Simon down in pit lane is Monster Energy Yamaha boss Maio Meregali. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Yeah, good afternoon. About the liveries, you know, from the past, I think it really depends on what you grew up watching, you know, and that's why I've heard a lot of people, including you, Matt, speak about the Aprilia, being in love with it. But I grew up watching the Yamahas and Hondas and Suzukis, which are no longer here. So to see the livery on the Yamaha and the Honda just makes me smile. Truly incredible. The mechanics got old school looking overalls as well. And Mayo, the reason I've come down to see you, it's always good to give the listeners an update, or give us all an update on how the march forward back to the front is going for Yamaha.
Yeah, it's a long process. Actually, I really had in my mind a different weekend here in Silverstone, but we faced some difficulties that I really didn't expect before coming here. Anyway, it's a fast track. We improved the top speed of the bike, and I was quite okay, not super sure, but anyway, I had some expectation. Unfortunately, we suffer a lot with the lack of grip, and when it's like that, for us, everything became more complicated. And unfortunately, we faced this as a main problem. Then the second big problem has been that Alex couldn't ride the bike, so having one rider less, it's another problem because you have less data to compare. And yeah, that's it. This weekend is not is going to be a great one, but we are really working hard. And about the development you mentioned, it's planned a really important two-day test in Misano after Austria GP, where the concession are giving us this opportunity, this extra job. But we are happy to do that because we have new items to test, and if the test, the result will be positive, we are already going to bring some of them for Misano GP. So this is an extra motivation. But yeah, we know that it's hard. It's really long work, but we started, and we won't give up until we will be there.
Mayo, it looks from the outside that you really have, changed things, because the amount of parts coming. I mean, I understand you have a different engine spec here. You had a different engine spec not long ago. There's another one on the way. It looks like you're pushing, or Yamaha are pushing really hard in all areas.
Yeah, the approach really changed in the last couple of years, and I never saw such an effort as we are putting now. As you know, we hire new engineers, but overall the approach really changed. There is a really strong interaction between the base, the Italian workshop base, and YNC in Japan. And yeah, this is an additional value. In the past, this interaction was not that strong, but things are really changing. And we are bringing more people, more engineers. We need also them to touch the field, and in the past never happened. So we are seeing also some results that sometimes are not visible, maybe from the TV, but here we starting seeing some of them, and also this give you additional motivation. But yeah, having said that, this procedure is process is long, and we had in our mind that it was going to be 1.5 years before we could be where we would like to be, and we are just at the beginning.
So you mentioned earlier in the weekend that Alex Rins, it would be ideal to have him back for those Misano tests earlier if possible, but the Misano test's critical, to get direction. I'm just really curious, before I let you go, a couple of words on Remy's work. Been drafted in, Remy Gardner, from World Superbike side. He does have experience in Michelin tyres from past years, but how's his work going?
Very good. Actually, we were surprised in Sachsenring when we decided last minute Alex replacement after Assen crash. And the feelings, the way he has to work is very calm, very clear feedbacks. And that's why he is here. We planned this Silverstone wildcard with Carl. Unfortunately, Carl was not fit to join this wildcard, and rather than cancel withdraw the application, we asked Remy if he wanted to come, because he's working well. Also, since Alex withdrew of this GP, we move him in our garage, but he's with his bikes, and because he's working and he's trying different things, and the feedbacks and the data are quite important for us.
Mayo, thank you for your time, and I'm sure everyone agrees with me. Good luck with that long process and march back to the front.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Mario Meregali. While we listened to that interview with the Italian about the Yamaha's plans for the present and the future, we of course filtered down pit lane to catch a glimpse of some of these stunning liveries. The most recent one we just saw there was Repsol Honda's. Got to say, that's probably on my podium of favourites as well. They've centred their vintage livery around Freddie Spencer's historic 1983 500cc World Championship win. Of course, he beat Kenny Roberts Sr. by just 2 points in one of the most memorable Grand Prix title fights in history. At the time, Spencer, remember, was 21 years of age on that NS 500 Honda. It made him the youngest ever winner of a Premier Class title, a record he held from 1983 to 2013, when a certain Marc Marquez burst onto the scene.
On the other side of the Honda story, LCR, we saw with two different colour schemes as always, one for Johann Zarco, one for Taka Nakagami. Johann Zarco sporting a modern twist on the Honda livery, ran in 1966 by Mike the Bike Halewood on his way to the 250cc World Championship. Taka Nakagami, in contrast, running a livery which, as you can probably see when you spot it, takes inspiration from the team's Japanese background, and of course their title sponsors Idemitsu.
Of course, we, as this great championship, have 75 years to celebrate. Trackhouse Racing, a little bit less time to work out their special one-off livery. They have done an outstanding job. Of course, our newest arrival onto the MotoGP grid in this 75th anniversary season. They have decided to pay tribute. They've taken their inspiration from their American roots and based it around a whole crop of American MotoGP legends. Of course, there was a period of time where MotoGP was just dominated by American superstars. You'll see on the Trackhouse Racing fairings the faces of some icons, some legends from 1993 World Champ Kevin Schwantz, Kenny Roberts, Wayne Rainey and Freddie Spencer, Eddie Lawson, just to name but a few.
Speaking of faces, Jorge Martin we saw with many of his own face on his bucket hat that he was wearing before climbing aboard his retro-themed Pramac Ducati. Inspiration for that, you have to go back to 1983 and Angel Nieto's 125cc World Championship winning design. Angel, of course, the uncle of Fonzie Nieto, the team's sporting director. So Martin sporting an Angel Nieto tribute helmet, with both he and Frankie Morbidelli honouring the legendary Spaniard, the 12+1 times world champion, with his livery today. Now
this is my speed around the Silverstone circuit, that the MotoGP riders, the best of the best, the elite of the elite in MotoGP. If you're wondering why the likes of Pecco Bagnaia, all the MotoGP riders are basically at walking speed down into Maggots and Beckett's, well, at 5.9 kilometres, 3.666 miles, this Silverstone venue is certainly fuel thirsty. We saw a couple of rivals, well, Jorge Martin and Enea Bastianini on the podium yesterday in the sprint have fuel consumption concerns. It was all down to the fact there was no error, no misjudgment. They just weren't anticipating just how red hot the pace was, particularly in the first half of that Tissot sprint. Yesterday, Pecco Bagnaglia's fastest lap in the sprint would have actually qualified him 9th on the grid. I think it was on lap 2 that Jorge Martin was in second place. He had to go into a fuel saving mapping, so of course the teams would have punched the numbers, crunched the numbers, and then have asked their riders to come to the grid at the slowest possible speed to save as much fuel as they possibly can. Well, the Ducatis look great, their tribute livery from 2003, and they have performed phenomenally well, haven't they, over the last 2 or 3 years or so. The current reference brand in the modern MotoGP era, big favourites again potentially to continue this unbelievable run. They could lock out the podium for the 7th successive Grand Prix in a row here today. Let's get some thoughts from the boss, Davide Tardozzi.
Yeah, he's just finishing a conversation with the Aussie legend Wayne Gardner. I'm curious, did you ever race Wayne?
No. But it was one of my favorite guy because he was so aggressive. I love his riding style, and I love Wayne, how he rode, and he won. He was world title, he had the world title, so he's a nice person.
So, Davide, I have to ask you about today's long race. First of all, there was some fuel consumption issues yesterday. I'd like to hear a bit about that, but Enea, so on form, but so's Pecco, and he always learns from mistakes, learns overnight, gets faster. So tell us about your hopes for both your riders.
Yeah, first of all, it's true that this is one of the most demanding racetrack on fuel. So I think that everybody will need to have a lower consumption map. That means that you will lose a bit of power, but I don't know the others. For us, it will be not a big issue. But anyway, like it was yesterday. But anyway, I think that the most important thing is how to manage the front tire today. I don't know if somebody will take the risk with this temperature to have the hard front tire, while I don't think we will take it. But anyway, I think that this could be one of the main issues of the race.
Davide, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well, we can answer that question just posed there by Ducati boss Davide Tardozzi. Will anybody take the risk on the Michelin hard front tyre? Well, Lewis, I guess this is no surprise, but the 4 Aprilias, in fact, they are the only 4 bikes at the moment planning on starting this 20-lap British Grand Prix with the hard front tyre. That's the latest Spargo from Pole, Maverick Vinales, Miguel Oliveira, and the newly signed up for 2 years at Trackhouse Racing, Raul Fernandez.
Yeah, they're able to put the load through the front tyre to generate the tyre temperature quickly, which is what you need to do to make that hard front tyre work. Aleix Espargaro said yesterday he was already on the limit with the hard front tyre, and he was in no doubt. There was no option for him to go for anything else other than that hard front tyre. But outside of the quartet of Aprilias, everyone else is going medium.
Well, on the wonderful, the very instantly recognisable MotoGP Tower of Champions, we saw the very first plaque. Leslie Graham, world champion in our first season back in 1949. And in the middle of your picture there, coming to the grid, is our current superstar in the MotoGP World Championship. Of course, well, Silverstone, world famous for motorsport all around the world on 2 and 4 wheels. I'm delighted to say, joining Simon on the grid. They're based just down the road here in the Formula 1 belt of England. It's McLaren Formula 1 boss, Zak Brown.
It is. Zach, your sport, you come from, like you're obviously an expert in Formula 1, and your sport leads the way, leads the world in many different areas, including technology, which I'm really interested in. Our sport, I think it's pretty hard to beat the riders' bravery, the gladiatorial way, and it's spectacular, but who cares what I think? I'd love to hear what you think of our sport.
I think it's amazing. These riders, talk about bravery. I was up in morning warm-up watching them, dropping their feet off, leaning over. The bikes are amazing, the technology of the bikes. All the Formula One drivers, and everyone in Formula One watches MotoGP. We think it's some of the best racing in the world, so that's what we always hear is, like, that's the best racing in the world. So I'm excited. It's my first MotoGP since 2015. I was out in Misano. I guess the Monster, who has a huge presence here, a sponsor of ours as well at McLaren. So I'm excited to see this race.
Just curious, you mentioned the technology here. I was surprised because you lead the way, you know, with technology. What sort of tech things that are you impressed with on our side?
The power to weight ratio is stunning on these bikes. I was looking earlier at what the riders can do. I guess the riders, not drivers, right? During the race. And then it was interesting, some differences. There's no radio communication. Sounds like that's up for discussion. Sounds like air turbulence isn't too bad, but tire management is at certain tracks. So I'm still trying to kind of learn to see exactly how the race plays out, but it seems like it's flat out. And from a few of the riders I spoke with, they love the track.
Zach, thank you very much for your time. Hope you enjoy the race coming up.
No doubt about it.
I'm sure, no doubt, he will enjoy the spectacle that is coming his way. Yes, we're biased, of course, in the commentary box. We know that this is the greatest motorsport show on earth. McLaren are enjoying a bit of resurgence this year, aren't they? In Formula One, race wins so far for Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Great to see Zach Brown enjoying his first taste of live MotoGP action on site since 2015. There's Luca Marini and Joan Mir. Big fans of the official HRC one-off livery here this weekend as well, Lewis?
Yeah, certainly. It's a classic colour scheme as we are immediately switched to another Japanese manufacturer's colour scheme. This is, of course, the factory Yamaha. Remy Gardner starting from the back of the grid. Repsol Honda honouring Freddie Spencer's 1983 500cc World Championship winning colour scheme back on the NS 500, one at the tender age of 21. One of the many American heroes, of course, that Trackhouse are honouring with their special livery this weekend. Trackhouse running a livery which sports the faces of every American Premier Class winner.
Well, Gresini Racing, they always find a way to deliver a very special livery when the time is right. Of course, the great Fausto Gresini, the driving force for so many years behind Gresini Racing. Marquez and Alex Marquez using the livery that he won, Fausto, on his way to 1985 and 1987 125cc World Championships. That's back in the hands now of Mark and Alex Marquez. Let's get some pre-British Grand Prix thoughts from Michele Massini.
Yeah, Michele, just before I ask you about chances in the race, I'd love to hear you say about the beautiful looking, I'm looking at it now, this replica from Fausto Gresini.
Yeah, I hope that this livery could give us a boost today, a special boost. But I think that the potential today is the top 5 will be great, because we think that there is 3-4 riders that had a more pace than us, but we will see. You know, if we can make a great start, making some overtake immediately, we can manage well the race.
Every weekend, it looks, well, recently, it looks like Mark has a tough day on Friday, you know, not knowing the Ducati, taking it to the circuit for the first time at each track, but he continues to march forward in the weekend, you know, every day, and you think he'll be stronger than yesterday?
Yeah, this is for sure, and we don't have to forget that in every circuit we arrive is the first time also with Ducati. It's not an excuse, but we have to make at the end more work compared to the other rider, and for sure the important is that we keep growing day by day, and we see our potential, and for sure this is one of the tough weekend since the beginning of the year, but we will try everything.
Thank you, Michele.
Thank you.
Yeah, right, Marc Marquez off at your peril. Of course, he will go from 7th place on the grid today. Mark's 1,015 days since his last success at the Emilia Romagna round back in 2021. We just saw there, while we were hearing from Michele Massini, so many elements to our 75th anniversary celebrations. One of them, which has been open all weekend to the British fans, has been a special exhibition of some of the iconic motorcycles in the history of Grand Prix motorcycle racing. Now then, Aprilia tend to love life, don't they, on British soil. Race winners here 1 year ago with the latest Spargo. Pole position yesterday. Let's get some thoughts from the boss, Massimo Rivola, who joins Simon.
Yes, Massimo, first of all, your replica, you know, your design on the bikes today looks absolutely fantastic. I know it's a lot of people's favourites, including Matt Burt, who's in the box right now. Tell us, Piaggio Group, Aprilia, must be proud of your march forward, and especially since you've joined.
No, I think that looking at watching this bike now, and remember, you know, the history of Aprilia, and there are not so many manufacturers that can show that kind of history, and it's quite a responsibility, but quite a good feeling, you know, also for Aleix having today being on pole with his third all-time record in number of races. It's all good. Unfortunately, the weather is a bit Silverstone typical weather. The front tire choice is going to be very tricky, but we know that Aleix loves the hard, and he will race the hard. So maybe we'll be the only one off the grid, and maybe, you know, it means that he needs to put to the limit every single lap, and we'll see. It's a bit of a risk, but we want to take it.
So it sounds like weather is not playing into your hands. You'd rather it hotter and safer for Aleix with that hard front.
Yeah, absolutely. Half an hour ago we saw some sun, but now it's gone. So anyway, Aleix is convinced. The team is with him, so no regret, and we just push.
Massimo, thank you for your time. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks to Massimo Rivola there from the factory Aprilia team. Yes, of course, a special day for Aleix Espargaro on the pit board. A Jetta that is from the Aprilia crew. Appearance number 329 for the 35-year-old Spaniard then. And that means at the end of this British Grand Prix, only two other riders in history would have made more appearances at World Championship level than Aleix Espargaro, none other than the two Italians, Valentino Rossi and Andrea Dovizioso. So yeah, you could sort of hear the sort of slight nerves, a slight concern in Massimo Rivola's voice there about this hard front tyre, as the temperature has just cooled off as the cloud cover has closed back in on Silverstone. He said there's no question about it, Aleix Espargaro is convinced that's the right choice, but he was sort of unsure about whether Maverick Vinales and the two other Aprilias for Oliveira and Ralph Fernandez had maybe decided in the cool conditions, is it too cool for the hard? Maybe those other three have dropped back down to the medium front tyre. The traditional pre-race ceremony then about to get underway here at Silverstone. The grandstands have been filling up throughout the day as we get ready for the 20-lap British Grand Prix. We'll take a pause then now in the commentary box for the national anthem.
God save our gracious King. Long live our noble King. God save the King. Send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the King.
Madison A there then with a lovely rendition of the British national anthem. God save the King, who will be the king of the British Grand Prix at Silverstone in just about 10 minutes time. It will be lights out. As the grid then will start to clear very, very shortly. Perfect timing to look at Jorge Martin in the beautiful Angel Nieto livery for the World Championship, second place rider at the moment. Let's get some pre-race thoughts from Jorge Martin's boss, Gino Borsoy, who's with Simon.
Yeah, and we've got your rider right on screen there, Gino, putting his Prima Pramac cap on. I really would like your thoughts going into this one.
Yeah, I'm happy about yesterday. Of course, was a tough race, especially at the end, because Bastianini was so fast, and we decided the rear tire at the beginning because his speed was too much, honestly speaking, and we understand that yesterday after check the data, and we know. And now we have a different strategy for today. Let's see if it's working. But also we know that Pecco will be back, and Bastianini is so strong. We saw the warm-up today. So let's see what's going on. The important thing is to try to make a good race, and if it's possible, get the podium. Otherwise, just finish the race and no lose point with the top rider.
Can you quickly touch on, for us, fuel consumption concerns and tyre, durability, but also choice?
Well, honestly speaking, we are not really 100% sure about the front tire. No,
choice.
The front tire choice, of course. Harder one was better for us. Normally, Jorge, when put the medium on front, is not, let's say, comfortable. His riding style is better when we have the higher tire in front, but due to the temperature, we are unable to put it. So let's see. You have to control the race and try to get the best feeling as possible with the front tire.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Gino Borso. Of course, Prima Pramac Racing would love Jorge Martin to finish first, but it sounds like the message is loud and clear. Just make sure you finish after his woes 2 laps from the end of that German Grand Prix, when he thought he was going into the pre-summer break with a 20-point World Championship lead. At the front of the grid, as we heard the national anthem being performed by Madison A, we saw the first ever 500cc World Championship winning bike that took Leslie Graham to glory, the AGS 500cc 2-stroke. Slightly different, these modern day MotoGP bikes, now producing over 300 horsepower. Simon, I know you've been having a good look at both the past and present of our motorcycles that have dominated MotoGP, and I think you found out some pretty interesting insight.
Well, I've just been having a look at it. The machine Leslie Graham, as you said, British rider, rode this British-built AJS. Albert John Stevens, I think it was Joe's son that the initials came from. It's a 500cc 4-stroke, making it's about 7,500 RPM maximum, making about 40 horsepower, it's about 140 kilos, 190 kilometers an hour roughly top speed, and he narrowly beat, that's Leslie Graham, Nello Pagani to the World Championship, but it was a close one, and he was riding a Gilera 500 4-cylinder, and the writing was on the wall apparently after that you had to have a 4-cylinder, so most people went that way. 1949.
Thanks for that, Simon. 75 years on, who will be triumphant on a modern-day MotoGP spectacular with a nod to the past. Starting from the very front on the beautiful Max Biaggi-inspired Aprilia livery is Aleix Espargaro. Came from 12th on the grid to win this race last year. Even from pole position, you feel like he's got a tougher task ahead of him today, with the Ducatis queuing up in his wake. First time this season, it's an all factory Ducati front row, or a double for the team, with Bagnaia and Bastianini side by side. I guess the biggest unanswered question from yesterday's Tissot sprint is, would Bagnaia have beaten Bastianini in a straight fight had he seen the checkered flag? Maybe we get that answer this afternoon. Bagnaia knows that if he's going to lead the World Championship to Austria in 2 weeks' time, his margin for error is near non-existent. The crash in the sprint yesterday saw his 10-point lead cut to 1. Prima Pramac might well be sounding a cautious tone about Jorge Martin's prospects this afternoon, but as we've seen, it can only take one split-second error to turn this title battle on its head. Yeah, Pecco Bagnaia in the modern MotoGP 4-stroke era. Only 2 other riders have gone on winning streaks of 5 successive wins or more in MotoGP. His great mentor, Valentino Rossi, and Marc Marquez, of course, who was the last time we saw a rider win 5 on the spin. 5 minutes then to race starts. You can just feel the tension building, the atmosphere and the volume getting cranked up here at Silverstone. Just a little bit of breaking news about the 2025 edition of the British Grand Prix, actually, before it's lights out. A big change in the calendar for next season as Silverstone gets brought forward to late May as opposed to its most recent early August date. Your front row of the grid then.
for this milestone MotoGP race here at Silverstone. Enea Bastianini, the Tissot sprint winner yesterday, looking to make the double. He goes from third. Pecco Bagnaia starts second, but it's Aleix Espargaro on the beautiful black Aprilia livery that is trying to make it back-to-back wins here in the British Grand Prix. It's retro race day here at the 2020